brutal economic realities are bringing a day of reckoning to local governments, which are slashing jobs and spending at every level.
But extravagant spending still exists in some public sector salaries and benefits. All this week, the I-Team investigates who makes what in local government, starting with the firefighters. George Knapp is here with their story, and it's about more than just overtime pay.
That's right, and we've been reporting about Clark County firefighter salaries. The firefighters have been pummeled in recent months because of salaries that are ranked in the top 2 in the nation, much of it from overtime. Taxpayers want them to earn comfortable salaries, but 200 grand or more? It's much more complicated than mere extra hours, though. Firefighters earn what is called premium pay in several different categories that cover almost everything except fighting fires. And while it's become something of a sport to tee off on firefighters, these profitable perks didn't just fall out of the sky. The county has willingly dished out the goodies over many years.
But when you start manipulating the system to where you get overtime that's, sometimes double or 2.5 times your salary, you lose the sympathy of the public.
Radio muckraker Frank Costigan is not anti-firefighter. He not only worked as one in 2 states, but was an elected officer in a firefighters union. But in his current job as community watchdog along the Colorado River, he's ticked off about the salaries earned by Clark County firefighters stationed in Laughlin.
When you cross the river, things change. The average firefighter on the Arizona side makes about $34,000 to $38,000 a year. And then when you come over here to the Laughlin side of the river, it doubles to triples that, not counting the overtime.
Of all the heated issues surrounding firefighter pay, the situation in Laughlin might be the stickiest for firefighters to explain. Look at the list of highest earning employees in all of Clark County, and it's dominated by firefighters. Of those, the largest concentration is in Laughlin. The little casino town on the river has 2 fire stations and 48 firefighters. But among those are a deputy chief, 10 fire captains, and 13 engineers. 10 Laughlin firefighters earned $185,000 a year or more. Laughlin gobbled up $1.5 million in firefighter overtime last year. Why so much? Is Laughlin ablaze? Not exactly. During the 20 minutes when we were outside the Laughlin fire station, every unit sprung into action. The ambulance, the big rig, even the water rescue team. But fire records show there was no emergency on that afternoon, so maybe all of this was for our benefit, to look busy. In fact, the 2 stations at Laughlin are among the 5 least busy stations in the county. They responded to only 13 structure fires all of last year, 41 fires total, including brush and car fires. They helped in 7 water rescues and responded to hundreds of medical emergencies involving elderly tourists. 2,800 calls in all of 2009 for 2 stations. That compares to 23,000 calls for the busiest single fire station in Las Vegas. In essence, the Laughlin firefighters earn the most and do the least. Because they work outside the valley, they earn an extra 5%. It's a perk called remote pay.
If you go down there for 3 years and you're getting that supplemental pay, it bumps their retirement benefits. So the retirement benefits end up far exceeding what their wages even were.
County Commissioner Steve Sisolak thinks remote pay is one example of how firefighters have exploited the public's high regard for the profession. The current contract is packed with extra goodies, excluding the whole overtime issue. Extra percentages for all the things they do other than fighting fires. 80% of the calls that come in are for medical emergencies, so EMT training would seem a given. But firefighters get up to 12% extra pay for certification in emergency medicine, and they keep earning it the rest of their careers, even captains and engineers who don't perform such work. When you look at the agencies from top to bottom, the paychecks look pretty fat.
We beat up on the firefighters and the police officers and the teachers and whatnot for making too much money, and yet here we have this agency that apparently has an unlimited budget for hiring folks to basically facilitate the water grab.
Environmentalists like Lance Rake have griped for years about SNWA's seemingly bottomless wallet, especially in connection with the proposed rural pipeline project, which could easily cost $5 billion, maybe $10 billion, and the tens of millions spent on a string of failing ranches, the fat consulting contracts for lawyers, PR firms, media ads, and lobbyists, not to mention millions more for a celebrity chef. Elected officials, for the most part, tread lightly when discussing the politically powerful SNWA.
There's some big numbers that have gotten over there, and here again the same thing has happened. What's happened with water, what's happened with fires.
County Commissioner Commissioner Steve Sisolak has not only taken on firefighter salaries, but has dared to question water agency spending, which he characterizes as out of control. That includes salaries.
That simply cannot afford to continue. I mean, when you talk about the water salaries, those are paid when you turn on your tap to pull water out for drinking water or to wash your dishes or water your lawn. That's ultimately where the revenue comes from to pay those salaries.
And they're earning their money every day.
Water Authority HR Director Pat Maxwell wasn't thrilled about being assigned to grant an interview with the I-Team regarding salaries. We know because she told us, but she stuck to what seemed like an official mantra. Water salaries are not out of line.
The objective of our compensation plan is to attract and retain the best skilled employees we can. Their salaries are comparable to other similarly sized systems for potable water.
So, is she right? The Water Authority, Water District, and Springs Preserve have a combined total of about 1,600 employees, with a total payroll of $125 million per year. If you do the math, it comes out to $77,000 per employee. Not a bad average.
We compare with Denver, large systems in California.
Yes, we do. As HR Director, Pat Maxwell earns well, $177,000 last year. Her example of Denver is apt. The average salary in that agency is well below SNWA's, $17,000 less. What about Phoenix? The water employees there average $57,000 a year, a difference of $20 grand. In Albuquerque, the average salary is $58,000, and their Pat Maxwell earns $76,000 a year less than our Pat Maxwell. The closest we found was Los Angeles, second largest city in the nation, with an average water salary just a bit less than that of Las Vegas. Water pay here is demonstrably top-heavy. Of the 1,600 employees, 496, nearly 30%, earn $90,000 a year or more. And at the very top, the amounts are considerable. SNWA General Manager Mulroy has the highest base salary of any employee in any public agency we could find, a hefty $290,000. Maxwell points out that Mulroy is the boss of both the Water Authority and the Water District, but while she carries two titles, it still comes down to one job. Even her critics think Mulroy is a highly capable manager, but she also surrounds herself with other top-dollar honchos. Her general counsel, Charles Hauser, earned $270 grand last year, which is also what her two deputies, Kay Brothers and Thomas Minwagen, took home. Another deputy, Dick Wimmer, earned that as well, but retired at the end of last year. His replacement, Phil Spate, is getting $200,000 this year, while also drawing a public retirement based on his years at Henderson City Hall. Pat Maxwell, for one, is nonplussed.
I don't think we have a lot of people making half of $500,000.
Well, yeah.
We have 5 out of 1,500. That's not a lot. I don't think it's more than any other water agency that's similarly sized, though.
But it is. We couldn't find any other water agency with 5 managers earning these kinds of figures. Mulroy's counterpart in Albuquerque makes $140,000 less. Mulroy makes $100,000 more than the San Diego water boss, $40,000 more than the one in Denver. The only one who earns more heads the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. None of these others pays 4 deputies $250 grand or more.
The bottom line, expenses, which in North Las Vegas are nearly 75% salaries, have outpaced revenues, an equation that simply doesn't add up long term. Collective bargaining tactics, traditionally confined to the back room, paraded in public this year as unions for the City of North Las Vegas Police.
We're promoting that their community is 78% safe.
And firefighters.
Firefighters become political punching bags.
Openly challenged the city's efforts to cut costs. At stake for a majority of North Las Vegas employees, lucrative salary and benefits packages, negotiated before the economic boom went bust.
Our hands are somewhat tied unless...
Acting City Finance Director Al Noyola.
At this rate, the city would not be able to sustain itself if we continue paying at this rate.
An I-Team review of the city's payroll reveals trends common to municipalities valley-wide. Firefighters and police monopolize the top of the earning scale, with 6-figure paychecks for nearly 60% of full-time firefighters in 2009, 40% of sworn police and corrections officers.
The key, I don't think, is how much a police officer earns. Is the police officer earning that pay? And what our commitment is that they are.
While the average police salary hovers below the $100,000 mark, Perks like longevity pay, premium pay, and overtime pad police and fire paychecks. Take Police Sergeant George Middlebrook. According to city payroll records, in 2009, Middlebrook took home more than $180,000. On top of his $99,000 salary, the 14-year veteran of the department collected some $6,000 in longevity pay, nearly $25,000 in premium pay for a special 24/7 assignment, and more than $45,000 in overtime.
The bottom line is this: if a one-year-old child's taken into Sunrise Hospital that's been raped, we have to call that sexual assault detective in. We have to pay that overtime. If there's a lot of those and they make a lot of overtime, that's a sad thing. But clearly the community knows that officer has to be out there.
Firefighters, too, more than 70% of them collected overtime in the double digits last year. Firefighter paramedic Craig Romey topped the list with nearly $60,000 in OT. Compensation now on the decline citywide, with targeted cuts to overtime this year of at least 25%.
Some of the other benefits, however, in order to reduce those, it will take the cooperation of the union.
Things get interesting when you investigate what the TA employees do for their pay while they're on the clock and what they don't do.
We're not that big. We only have, supposed to 4 officers per shift. That's 1 supervisor. And we have to answer 8,000 square miles. There's not enough people. So
Supervisor Rico Constantino thinks the Nevada Taxi Authority is probably too small to adequately monitor thousands of cabs over such a large and busy area. TA officers have a tough and dangerous job. After all, Las Vegas taxi drivers can be a handful. Compared to some local agencies, TA employees in general do not earn whopper salaries. Payroll records for 2009 show that Constantino, for example, has a base salary of less than $43,000 as a level 3 enforcement officer. With sick time and OT, he gets around $63,000, plus another $19,000 he earned as a level 2 officer, meaning his total salary is right around $83,000. His boss, longtime enforcement chief Joe Dahlia, earned $61,000 in salary, but was paid $104,000 overall, including $30,000 for sick time used in 2009. His total pay and benefits, $122,000, which is more than for his boss, TA Administrator Gordon Walker, who earned just under $98,000 for a total of $115,000. For many years, the widespread perception of the TA has been that employees supplement their income with goodies from the taxi industry they regulate. Gifts, freebies, maybe more. At least 8 current and former TA employees have told the I-Team the cab companies still exert influence over TA enforcement. The best example is the issue of long hauling.
We going the long way?
Drivers who take the long way to strip hotels overcharge their passengers by millions of dollars each year. This, in turn, makes millions for the cab companies. TA officers who've tried to enforce the law against long hauling have repeatedly been warned to stop or else. Former airport officer Larry Johnston remembers writing a long hauling citation at 3 in the morning. By 7 a.m., it had been voided by Chief Joe Dahlia.
Absolutely, did no investigation. He got a call, obviously, he got a call at home from somebody at Western Cab.
We should be able to stop them, identify where they're going, and give them the citation.
Former airport officer Scott Lewis says he and others were ordered to stop writing citations.
We received a phone call from one of our senior investigators that said, quote, "Get back into your office and don't stop another desert cab for the rest of their night. If you do, that's going to be your job." And he said that the chief of the Taxi Cab Authority, Joe Dahlia, got a call from the general manager of Desert Cab.
Scott Lewis was fired for a laundry list of alleged misdeeds. He thinks it all stems from his criticism of long-hauling enforcement. Lewis alleges the TA operates like an independent fiefdom rather than a state agency. For example, in April, for 3 weeks, TA officers made nightly, even hourly patrols past the home of their boss, Gordon Walker, which is many miles removed from the taxis on the Strip, acting as Walker's private security force. Days later, Lewis and a friend were spotted and detained as they were videotaping the nightly patrols.
Lights on us right now.
TA investigators spent a weekend writing a criminal complaint and had Lewis arrested at his workplace on charges of stalking. For the past 6 weeks, TA officers have been showing up at the Hard Rock Hotel where Lewis works. The same officers involved in his arrest have followed Lewis into the employee dining room where they help themselves to free meals. Surely Officer Adam Teddy and Officer Chris Rivers, each of whom earned more than $80,000 last year, can afford to pay for their own lunches.